Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and today I want to talk about how to price your plants to sell. Now this can be an awkward conversation. My first impulse when talking to a plant person is to talk to them about plants. It's what we have in common, and it's what we both love. Why should we let a little thing like money come between us? However, if you're selling plants and you intend to make that a part of your hobby or a small business, at some point they're going to ask you how much you're charging, and the better you prepare yourself for that conversation, the more confident you can be in quoting a price. So the principles of this are very, very simple. You have to look at 2 points of price. The first one is, what can you make money at? What's the markup? What's the price where you can make money? And the other one is the price that the customer is willing to pay. And these may not be the same price at all. If the customer is not willing to pay what you can make money at, you shouldn't grow that plant. And some of the best plants to grow are the ones where you can make money at this level and the customer is willing to pay quite a bit more. So those are the principles involved here. That sounds simple enough, but let's delve into them. First, let's talk about how you can tell if you can make money on a plant. The easiest way to calculate whether you're making money on a plant is to apply a standard markup to a known cost. I'll give you the quick example. Let's say you bought a plant for $5 and you sold it for $10. That means you doubled it, or you went at 2 times markup. A 2 times markup is typically, across all of retail, a decent markup to start looking at for any product you buy in and resell. I know that we're also going to talk about growing our own plants in this section, but let's just start with that simplest example, that you bought something and you sold it. So a 2 times multiple across retail is pretty standard or pretty reasonable. In plants, we try to go a little bit higher than that. The reason for that is because plants are a little bit more perishable, a little more time sensitive in nature. You get a short season to sell them in, and you have your spring, you have your summer, but usually by fall their attention has come off of plants, so you may get stuck with that plant over a longer period of time if you can't sell it in that season. In addition to that, it takes effort and work to keep it in good condition, and if you have to hold it very much longer, there is a chance that you will lose those plants. So you compensate yourself by making your multiple a little more than 2 times, usually 2.5 times or 3 times. So if you were taking a different example, you bought a plant for $2 and you times it by 2.5, you'd end up with $5 as your selling price, and that in general is going to be enough to make sure that you're going to make money on that plant every time. Okay, so now you have the question of, what if you grew your own plants? Because, we're plant geeks, we grow our own plants. We grow them from seed, we grow them from cuttings, we grow them from divisions. How do you cost those? So you can take a bit of a shortcut here. And I'm going to describe the shortcut first, and then we'll go into the detail of whether you had to cost it yourself. The shortcut would be that you look for a wholesale in your area that sells the same or a similar plant in a similar size of pot, and you apply their cost, or what they would charge you for that plant, and then just times it by the same multiple. So if you're buying a pot of lavender in 9 centimeters, and you grew it yourself from seed, but a wholesaler across town sells it for $3, then you would look at it and say, well, I'm going to sell that for $7.50. Okay, makes sense? The next thing is if you have to determine cost. Now, determining cost yourself is a little tricky because most growers tend to underprice their own labor, their own growing space. They really don't apply costs well. And honestly, this goes right up to large growers who don't do a great job of costing their plants. So I'm going to give you some numbers here. Some of them are very easy that you can determine from your own costs. So you can determine from the volume of soil how much you paid for the soil and how much went into that pot. You can determine your cost of your pot, and if you bought a plug in, then you can determine the cost of that plant input. Taking those 3 together, you can say, I'm going to make an example here. Let's say you assumed, I'm just going to use round numbers, that you paid 10 cents for the pot, you paid 10 cents for the soil, and you paid 30 cents for the plug. So now your cost on that plant is 50 cents. So would you apply the multiple right now? Call that $1.25? No, you wouldn't, because there's growing time involved too. And for growing time, you actually have to apply a cost to that as well. Otherwise, you're more or less saying that your growing space and your growing efforts are an unlimited resource, and if you don't cost them in like that, you're going to end up underpricing your plants, and it may skew your business in the direction of you doing a lot of extra work for not a lot of extra money. So you have to apply a cost. I'm going to give you a cost here that is reasonable, although it's not exact. And this is hard to do because everybody has different growing situations. But based on a study that I read from 2006 and cost forwarded till now, the average price for a grower per square foot week of a nursery plant or young plant is somewhere around 50 cents per square foot week. Okay, now a tray, let's say we got an 18-up tray like this guy here. A tray like this takes up 1.5 square feet. So for every week that this tray sits on a bench, you should apply 75 cents of cost to your plant. So if I grew this tray for 10 weeks, I should apply $7.50 across the tray, and I would divide that by the number of plants. And then I would get a cost per square foot week applied to the plants of what I grew, and then I can calculate that out to add that to the other costs and give you your base price or your base cost so that you can multiply that out to make your margin. Sorry, that sounded complicated, but you really do have to just get your head around the fact that even if your costs are different than somebody else's, you still have to apply some cost to it. And unless you are an accounting whiz, you probably should just pick a number that is reasonable. And in this case, I'm talking about 50 cents per square foot week for your plants, and apply that across and to the number of weeks that your plants live in your care. Once you've applied that formula, once you've come from a cost and you've gone up to your final profitable price, you really shouldn't consider straying below that, even if your customers are only willing to pay a little bit less than that. That should be a warning to you that this is not a profitable plant. You can grow it for yourself if you'd like, but you shouldn't be growing it for resale to your customers because they're just not willing to pay a price that's going to make you any money. I did another video on how to choose plants for your nursery business. I will link that one up above here. It is a little bit more in detail on this about how to choose plants, but the basics of it is you don't want to choose the common stuff. As a small grower, you don't want to choose the common stuff that the bigger growers will beat the hell out of you on. So the idea on this is that customers actually do know some prices. They don't know all of them, but on the common items, if you went down to Walmart and you were buying a pack of pansies for $1.99, once that price is in their head, it's a very common item, they're not going to pay more than that price for the same pansies from you. So at that point, if you can't produce them for far less than that, if you can't double and a bit your price and still make money on it, you shouldn't grow that plant. And that goes across a whole wide range of plants. Now, there is a little bit of room in the idea of rarity or scarcity. So if you go and you find items that are a little bit less well known, a little bit special, a little bit interesting, you can increase your markup generally, and you'll find customers who are willing to pay a little bit more for it. I'll give you an example here is that I have this clematis, and this is a clematis integrifolia. It doesn't look like much right now. Mongolian bells is the cultivar. I grew it from seed, and I don't see anybody else on the market having it. So if in this size other people were selling perennials for $10, I might consider lending it a premium up to $12 or $14 based on this item not being very common. So that's the idea here, is that you can sometimes take advantage of a little bit of this thing of, if you're good at choosing uncommon items or putting items out there that are a little more scarce, then you can charge a little bit more of a premium, and your customers won't mind that quite so much because there's nothing to compare it to. Now, as for figuring out what the market is willing to bear on these things, you're going to have to do some shopping around on that. And I assume as a plant lover, you're going to shop around your local nurseries. It doesn't hurt to pull out your smartphone and just take pictures of prices of any items you would be considering selling and see what they charge for it. And then compare that back to your own varieties. Are your items the same items in the same sizes? Well, then you have a price that's a comparable price. If your items are a little more scarce or a little more interesting, you might charge a bit of a premium on that. You can also go online and look at online stores and see what people are selling. You do want to try an apples to apples comparison. Sometimes online stores that ship across the country are in a bit of a different price league than what your local sellers would be, and so you have to keep that in mind as well. But there's no better way to figure this out than to shop. All right, thanks for watching the video today on how to price your plants for sale. I wish you best luck on that. If you have any questions or a conversation that you'd like to make, on how to price your plants for sale, love to hear from you. Drop that in the comments below the video.